I feel like this is a weird thing to say as a watch channel, as a channel that literally only makes videos about watch reviews and talking horology. But watches don't matter that much. And half of the statement seems so obvious to me, like obviously it's only watches. But on the other hand, it's something I always need to remind myself when I feel myself getting sucked a little bit too deep into the watch hobby sphere. These are only luxury trinkets. It's only watches. So if you aren't aware, or if you didn't know, there's this weird niche subsection of people who are weirdly into watches. Something about watches just makes us tick. Pun definitely intended. But in this tiny, niche, weird little community, we have these minuscule disagreements that honestly don't matter.
You're mad at your dad, not at me. I forgive you.
All these different perspectives can erupt into much larger disagreements than I think normal people would believe is possible over wristwatches. Wristwatches. And I've caught myself getting into this stuff before. It is really easy for me to go too far down the rabbit hole of horology. If I'm on YouTube watching videos, it's probably a video about watches. If I'm on Instagram, I'm looking at watches. If I'm listening to a podcast, it is most likely a watch podcast. Man, I must sound like a real loser right now. These things aren't worth arguing about over the internet. These things aren't worth breaking your good character over. Things you wouldn't say in person because it would be out of character. But now you're on the internet and you're just really heated up about Rolex, so you're gonna say something dark. It's not worth it. These things aren't the be-all and end-all. This is supposed to be a fun little hobby that brings joy to our lives and joy to each other, you know? It's only watches. I also really wanted to make this video because we are in a recession.
Cost of living crisis.
The cost of basic food supplies are rising and utilities are following suit.
I mean, last year the prediction for inflation was 4%. Yeah. We're now looking at heading towards 13%. And also, people have to live out these inflationary spikes, as you call it.
This isn't a sort of a prediction of things getting worse. It already is worse. We know that rough sleeping's going up. We know that councils know where to put
It'll be a
people.
costly venture. That together with significantly higher energy prices, we're thinking in terms of a recession that will be deep and long.
That's what she said.
It's the price we have to pay for financial stability and for getting on the right track.
At least where I live, here in the UK, we are at the beginning of a recession, the beginning of a cost of living crisis. We are going into this winter, and there will be a lot of families who won't be able to turn their heating on this winter because they can't afford it. They'll be looking for ways to eat meals without using their ovens because energy is too expensive. It might be different where you live. That's just where I live. My husband and I, for the first time ever, had a discussion about how much heating we were going to be using this winter because it's going to take a lot more out of our monthly expenses than it ever used to. We aren't going to freeze to death or anything, but it's a larger consideration than it's ever been before. For most normal people, this is going to be a much leaner winter than we're probably used to. And I feel a bit weird making videos titled, "Is this Rolex actually better than Patek Philippe? Rolex isn't as good as you think they are." You know? Like, how out of touch am I? When my friends are texting me asking me if I want to join their warm spaces rota, and I'm making watch videos like, "Is AP actually worth it?" I don't know. All these things just put everything in perspective for me and remind me watches don't actually matter that much. So all this has me thinking, what does this channel look like in a recession? I don't want to sound like an out-of-touch children's movie villain, waltzing around in a top hat and smoking a cigar like Scrooge McDuck. But also, watches make me happy. Sure, they aren't the important stuff of life, but also they bring me joy and vibrancy when life feels a little bit drab. They are an escape from reality. And my watches mean something to me. They represent something bigger than myself. They are these insane, tiny analog things that will outlive me, and they only, attempt to accurately measure the fourth dimension. They're just cool. And I hope this doesn't come across as super airy-fairy, hippy-dippy, and like I'm putting way too much meaning into these things. But I love them so much. Where am I going with this? I guess what I'm trying to say is that if this winter starts getting a bit rough for you and your family, and it might, I have white-collar friends, blue-collar friends who are all a little bit worried for what this winter might look like. Financially, for their families, for everything. Maybe it won't amount to anything either. I don't know. But if this winter starts getting a little bit rough for you, I just hope this channel is a place of joy and escape and a celebration of these like fantastic little timekeepers that fascinate me for whatever reason. I hope I don't come across as this horribly snooty and snobby person who's just so out of touch. I don't know. I just hope this space is a celebration of these weird little trinkets that we love. I've considered if I should start doing more affordable watch reviews or strap reviews or something. But I've decided I started this channel to talk about the watches that ultimately set my heart on fire. Sometimes I'm just so excited about Casios and G-Shocks, and sometimes I want to talk about an insane piece unique Patek Philippe. I'm going to keep talking about what makes me excited in horology. I do want to do a strap review though. Bloody love a good strap change. It can completely reinvigorate a watch. I've said it once and I will say it again. Watches are the meeting place of art, engineering, fashion, and history. And they will always be endlessly interesting and attract different kinds of people because of this. Watches aren't that important. It is the actual important things of life that fill watches with meaning, if that makes sense. Watches aren't important, but maybe family is. And maybe a certain watch has taken on a new meaning because it's come from a family member or because you want to pass it on to someone you love. The watch takes on new meaning because it's a symbol of someone who is actually important. Watches aren't that important, but your career is. This craft you've dedicated decades of your life to. And maybe you want to buy a watch to be a marker in a very important vocational milestone. The watch takes on new meaning because it marks something else. It marks something bigger than ourselves. And this is something watch brands do all the time as well, linking up their product and human achievement, like the Omega Speedmaster, the Rolex Explorer, the Vacheron Constantin, Everest, the Cartier Santos. There is something about linking a watch with something beyond ourselves, which is, of course, the entire slogan of Patek Philippe. You never really own a Patek Philippe, you simply look after it for the next generation. Anyways, I'm just rambling now. Enjoy the important things first and foremost. Watches, at the end of the day, are just objects. If you find yourself getting too invested in this hobby to the point where you're arguing with a fucking blogger over a couple of millimeters on the internet, it's time to go outside for a walk. You gotta get off the internet. It feels so obvious to say, but I've caught myself going too deep down this rabbit hole before and becoming someone I don't really want to be. But I also love the watch community. I love watches. I love watch enthusiasts so much. And I owe the biggest thank you ever to watches. Through this weird little hobby, I've made so many awesome friends. And even right now, making videos like this, I'm earning a little bit of money on the side of my real life job, talking about something I love. This hobby has been so good to me. Anyways, I've got some exciting content coming up. My favorite micro brand roundup, a Juge Le Coute video, and a couple more videos about watches and macroeconomics, because those always work out super well for me. But I have been doing research that I find really fascinating, and I can't wait to share it with you guys. Yeah. Until next time, you gorgeous, fabulous, wonderful watch nerds. Bye, guys. Ooh, this is a Patreon song this Sunday. Thank you, patrons. It's a Sunday.